Welcome back to the Cars Ireland YouTube channel. I'm Sinead McCann, back from a short break to show you around one of the most exciting new cars of the moment. It is the all-new and fully electric Volkswagen ID.3. Now, this is not Volkswagen's first attempt at an electric car. We have, of course, already had the e-Golf, but it is the very first built from scratch, designed to be electric car for the masses that looks set to not just replace the e-Golf, but possibly the ordinary Golf, if the push towards zero emissions motoring continues to gain momentum over the next few years. But we're not here to debate that today. We're here to assess this car for what it is and what it can offer the Irish motorist right now. So we'll start, as we always do, with the very basic practicalities of space and comfort. Let's go. So as I mentioned, I have been on leave from the car world for a while. So the very first time I saw this car in the metal was when I collected it. And the very first thing I noticed was that it's a lot bigger in real life than what it looks like online. I think the cute and friendly little face might have deceived me a bit, because it is quite a substantial car. Very, very similar in dimensions to the Golf, and perhaps even a smidge bigger on the inside. They have managed to carve out a little bit of extra boot space anyway at 385 litres. Now, the normal Golf is 380 litres, so it's not a very dramatic difference, but that could be the difference between getting your boot lid closed on your travel system or golf clubs or whatever it is that you're carrying around. I really like this carved out feature on the boot lid around the taillights, and again, that very familiar roundy VW button opening. It's really nicely finished in here. You've got a neat little compartment for storing your charging cables, which again is another benefit of having been designed as an EV. You've got tether points here for holding your other charging cables in place so that they don't rattle around. You've got shopping bag hooks, a 12-volt charging socket, there's a ski hatch into the back. Just normal boot stuff done really well, and certainly up to the normal Volkswagen standard. In the back, space again feels fairly similar to what you'd get in a Golf. I am sat behind my driving position here, and I'm about 5'6" for reference. I am more than happy with the head and leg room. One notable difference is across the floor here, because it's electric and doesn't need a transmission tunnel. You've got a nice flat floor here, which means a bit of extra comfort if you have a middle seat passenger. If you don't have a middle seat passenger, you can pull down this armrest instead. You've got a couple of cup holders here. There's some USB-C charging ports. You've got door pockets, door bins. All in all, your usual normal backseat stuff, done very well, with nothing very obviously missing from the experience. As you can see, I've fitted my enormous car seat here for reference. Every parent I know seems to have this particular model. It's one of those ones that spins and is supposed to do up until a child is about 4 years old. So hopefully this will be a helpful visual for anyone trying to imagine what the space back here is like with one of these things fitted. So as you can see, it fits quite well. There's still plenty of room to swivel. And now that I do these things myself regularly on a daily basis, I can say with confidence that these are really good ISOFIX points. So they've got the plastic covers on hinges, which is genius because it means you won't lose them. And also the anchors themselves are very prominent, which means that you can nearly do it without looking. Doors themselves open nice and wide as well. So all in all, getting little ones in and out is a very pleasant user experience. And finally, we get to the cockpit, which feels, you guessed it, a little bit like a Golf, except it actually feels a little bit roomier, certainly airier anyway. There's more glass, there's a bit more clutter-free, and some really clever use of space, which we'll get on to now in a second. This car I'm driving is the ID First Edition, most of which were pre-ordered almost 2 years ago now and started to arrive into the country last summer. So there was a little bit of extra spec for the price for those brave few who ordered a car off the plans, so to speak. Like the pause and play button on the pedals, it got nicer wheels, a reversing camera, tinted windows, and this nice upgraded interior, which is a very cool silvery Alcantara mix. I really like it, I have to say. I do enjoy a light interior, especially in an EV where it seems to be the rule because future, I don't know. But they haven't gone OTT either with the badging. I think VW know that they're in it for the long run, and sticking E badges everywhere is as pointless as sticking diesel and petrol badges on the interior of an ICE vehicle. One of the first clues that you're in an EV is this really satisfyingly clutter-free area down the centre here. There's no handbrake, well those have been gone a long time in fairness, and no gear selector because they very cleverly put it up here on the side of the instrument cluster, quite similar to what's in the BMW i3, or maybe we have to give a shout out to the original Mercedes OGs with the gear selector behind the steering wheel. But it is a very good placement and a really nice little feature to use. And as I said, it leaves this area really nice and free of clutter. You've got a nice bit of storage here. There's 2 USB charging ports and what I think might just be the best phone placement compartment holder ever, in that it's downward facing, so you can pop your phone in. It's not a distraction, you don't see it, but then it is still right there when you need to grab it and go. It doesn't have wireless phone charging, which is a bit surprising. I couldn't find it as an option either. My phone doesn't do that, so I'm not that upset about it. The infotainment system, on the other hand, is actually fine. Now, it's been well known that Volkswagen released the ID.3 with some tweaks to be made to this system. The most notable one being the addition of Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, which it doesn't have at the moment. So while you can obviously pair your phone via Bluetooth and do all those usual functions, your Spotify, it's got inbuilt sat-nav, so that's one thing you don't need to worry about. You can't actually mirror the screen of your phone up here. Again, not something that I use very much, but it will be a big no-no for some. But also at the same time, it is only temporary, and a new ID.3 that you'll order now will have that upgrade, hopefully. Now, the system itself, if I'm being totally honest, I probably did expect a little bit more, just because I'm aware of what Volkswagen as a group are capable of creating in the infotainment systems. And this isn't the very best of what they can offer, which is a little bit surprising given that it's obviously a very technology-focused market if you're buying an electric car. And now obviously there are cost restrictions, but I just don't feel that it even looks as impressive as it is in terms of functions, because there is an awful lot to it. It is, in fairness, a very easy system to use. It's quite intuitive. You've got all your usual infotainment stuff that we're all very familiar with by now, but also trip information, charging information, timers, all the rest. In fairness, it is very easy to use, just maybe lacking a little bit of that wow factor. I'm told that there are a few of these fully loaded first edition models still floating around a few dealerships if you're fast and lucky, but if not, then there's a whole new world of trim levels to choose from. 7 in total, in fact, so I won't be boring you with the details of each one, because there is a very good configurator on the Volkswagen website where you can go to decide exactly what it is that you need. But I will mention that standard kit level on the entry level Life is very good. Highlights include adaptive cruise control, a speed limiter, you've got parking sensors, built-in satellite navigation, voice control, and those ones will come with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto from the get-go. It's a sign of the times that I've gotten this far into an EV review without the range coming up yet. And that's because it's almost so good that it's kind of irrelevant at this stage. This first edition model has the 58 kilowatt hour battery, which has a WLTP range of 420 kilometers. Now, in real world driving conditions and based on the trip computer and kind of average energy consumption and all that, that's looking like closer to between 320 and 350, which is still pretty impressive. And for those lucky enough to have the facilities to charge at home, should be able to handle even the longest of commutes, if that ever becomes a thing again. So I won't be wasting any time doing range tests on this one, even if the current circumstances allowed it. But what I will note is that, well, the energy consumption is generally quite consistent around town, and that, like most EVs, you will start to see it drop quicker at motorway speeds and also when you're climbing hills like these ones. But then again, you do get a few kilometers back when you're coming back down the hill again due to the magic of regenerative braking. So just like the engine was in its spiritual predecessor, the Beetle, the electric motor in the ID.3 is rear mounted, which, like the original Beetle, means that it's rear wheel drive. Now, being electric, that doesn't quite equate to the same push powered feel of a rear wheel drive sports car, and it's more to do with balance than it is drifting. But at the same time, the considerable power, which is equivalent to about 204 horsepower, does still make it very good fun to drive. Now, the handling is almost unremarkable in how normal and balanced it feels, and save for the silence and the extra bit of pep, it feels just like driving, you've guessed it, a Golf. I'm particularly impressed with the suspension setup, which sometimes in EVs with a big old flat battery pack underneath can be a bit on the firm side. This is really nicely sprung, so there's no rattles over lumps and bumps. And I'm also a fan of how they configured the brakes. Sometimes with the instantaneous nature of EV power, hitting the brakes can be quite a jerky experience, but these ones have quite obviously been designed to take the car to a more gradual stop, I should say. Again, just adding to that really nice, normal feeling drive. The steering is nice and light and accurate, and yeah, it's just a really nice, pleasant little powerhouse of a car. This is a car that I have been looking forward to driving for quite a while, and I'm really happy to report that for the most part it really hasn't disappointed. I was a big fan of the e-Golf originally, despite its limited range, because how normal it felt and how easy it was to live with. And I think that the ID.3 has made up for any shortcomings that might have had, and then some. Plus, with a starting price of about €32,000, when you take government grants into account, it's definitely made it a more realistic option now for people who want to make the move to electric. If that's you and you're looking for an ID.3 or indeed any other car, be sure to check out our shiny new website at www.CarsIreland.ie, where you'll see some really cool new features to make your search as stress-free as possible. Please feel free to like, share and comment if you enjoyed the video, and if you'd like to see more like it, don't forget to hit subscribe for more new content coming soon. Thanks for watching.